Hey guys, I'm actually on the road for work this week, but I've got with me a bunch of video. So let me tell you the story real quick. I went on eBay and I was just looking for a Power Mac G4 that I could throw OS 9 on to kind of complete my timeline. My oldest Mac is an LC3, and up through my current M4 Max Studio where I was running Cyberpunk. So I was looking for something to kind of bridge the gap between 603E machine that I have, a Power Mac 6500, and my machine that runs Leopard is a dual G5. And I was just looking for something to throw in between. And so I got a really good deal on an auction on a Sawtooth, which is the original Power Mac G4 AGP box. Um, Honestly, it wasn't packed really well. You'll see in the next little bit where I just inspect the machine and turn it on for the first time. And I'm not going to spoil it. You'll see what happens, but it'll throw you for a loop. Anyway, enjoy this log of upgrading. We're looking for like the ultimate Mac OS 9 machine.
Okay, so now we're in the machine, and it's no wonder it didn't boot. The hard drive was just in here loose, kind of flopping around. This is the sled out of like a beige Power Mac. So, like, this is the same sled that is in my Power Mac 6500, for example. The actual sled that anchors this thing down is not here. So we'll take this out. And we're going to go ahead and make our first upgrade to this system, at least temporarily. I have this StarTech. Let's see if it's here. Yep, StarTech IDE or a SATA to IDE adapter. And then I have this Patriot SSD, 120 gigabytes. Now the Sawtooth is limited to 128 gig drives or less over the IDE bus. You can fix that by adding like a serial ATA PCI card. I just am going the easy route. So we'll snap that on there. And now this drive happens to already have installed Mac OS 10 Tiger. And then let's see if we can boot into Mac OS. I didn't hear a chime, but you can see the RetroTink detects a signal. Or it started to, yes. Okay, so that's not great. This open firmware screen is a little scary. We're going to guess that maybe some of the memory is not good. From Memory Masters, this is the same memory I have in my Quicksilver. And actually, I took this from my Quicksilver. And so I know this memory stick is good. We're going to see if it'll boot. Just pop it into one of the slots. And if this doesn't work, we'll try a different slot. Turn it on. Let's see what happens. All right, we again have a screen. And now we've got the Apple logo, so it looks like we're going to boot up. That's pretty exciting. Now, once we get into OS 10 here, we'll take a look at the status of the CD drive. On a pop what I believe is a Mac OS 9 CD in here. And let's see how it goes. It looks like I need to replace the PRAM battery, which I have. Let's see what we've got here. All right, Mac OS 10, 400 megahertz G4, 512 megs of SD RAM. We're booting off our 120 gig SSD. That's great. That's a really good start. And then I believe for graphics, we have a Rage 128 Pro. We do. For memory, we just have that one stick. We will experiment to see what, if any, of this memory works. OS 9 is probably fine with 256 megs. And I'd love to put this back in my Quicksilver. What I'm going to do off camera is take some benchmarks, and then let's talk about some of the upgrades we're going to be doing once we get this thing going. On the right, this is a GeForce 4 MX that came out of my Quicksilver. That system has been upgraded with a Radeon 9200. Now, the GeForce 4 MX has this big extra gold finger on it, and that is for ADC. Apple thought it would be very cute to deliver power, video, and USB over a single cable on their monitors. And so it has this weird looking ADC connector, which is annoying. But that's okay. We're going to use VGA anyway, and this should be a lot faster than the Rage 128 Pro. Now, macOS 9 does not have USB 2 support. That came with 10.3 Panther, and so we're going to install Panther also. But this USB card has, if I can get it to focus, a chip from NEC on it, which is a USB 2.0 chip that has native Mac drivers. And then this is the big one. This is a Sonnet Encore ST G4. And that 1400 2M indicates that it is a 1.4 gigahertz chip with 2 megs of L3 cache. It's a DDR cache. It runs at about 225 megahertz, I think. This should be a big upgrade over the 400 megahertz G4 that's in this system. So we're going to do those 3 upgrades along with the PRAM battery, and then we're going to get our SSD anchored to something so it's not just flopping around in here, and we'll get the DVD drive done. But first I have to run some benchmarks. Let's do a little bit of PowerPC 7400 series history here. On the left we have the original G4 chip out of a Sawtooth Power Macintosh. This is a PowerPC 7400. It runs at 400 megahertz, and it has 1 meg of half-speed L2 cache. The chip only has L1 cache on chip, and so like the motherboards of yore, L2 cache was built into this card as opposed to the motherboard. Now on the right, we have the PowerPC 7455 on our Sonnet Encore ST G4 1.4 gigahertz chip. The 7455, or actually the 7450 before it, had the pipeline extended so it could reach higher clock speeds, but it had some architectural enhancements so it didn't lose tons of performance. And also it has 2 megs of L3 cache, and that's because this chip has 256K of L2 cache on chip. And so the on-card cache becomes L3, and it's also doubled in size. So there's potential for more than just the clock speed difference in performance. So the thing about the Sonnet card, or any 7455 upgrade going into any Mac, is that due to the die shrink, this is a 180 nanometer chip as opposed to the original's 200, it's not recognized by the system's ROM. And so when you install this, as I did in my Quicksilver, it comes up as a 0 megahertz unknown chip. Sonnet has available on their website a firmware updater. And so we'll install the firmware updater and actually update the firmware before we install this module. All right, now that programming is done, it's time to start upgrading. And I'm going to do maybe not the smartest thing, in that I'm going to install everything all at once. So wish me luck. I did double check on Sonnet's website, and the manual for this version that has no heatsink says it's totally fine to use the Sawtooth heatsink in place of, or on the Encore. Now I do have some Arctic Silver MS4, or some Arctic MX4. It's not silver anymore. It shows you how old I am. This is a really nice thermal compound, and so we'll have a good connection between our CPU and its heatsink. So now the way you take these sawtooth heat sinks off is we'll press down on a clip and lift it up with the flat head screwdriver. And that worked perfectly. We'll unhook it on this side as well. There we go. And so this heat sink has just, we're going to clean that. Let's get this a little closer. We're going to clean that up before we do much else. And then you can see on the board the original processor. We'll just put down some thermal paste along with it. Now, PowerMac G4 CPUs are literally screwed onto the motherboard. All right, so we're going to take this off, a little plastic cover. And then you can see, if we get a little closer, this 300 pin, I have no idea what kind of socket this is. They just mate together. And so we set it on here and get our screws lined up and press down, and it pops into place. So now, screw that on. And it's riding the CPU nicely. And then our GeForce 4 MX also pops right in. I'm not sure what's going on there. We're gonna not screw that down for now, and we're gonna test it out. I will button it up later. Get a good gander at my head. A beautiful melon with a bald spot, probably in perfect view. Lucky you guys. So with any luck, we have done lots of upgrades all at once. Let's see if there's any smoke that comes out of this thing. Oh, we have, well, it lit up green briefly. There it goes. And turn this way. And it looks like it does not, well, it found our boot drive, because that's the MacBench 5 CD in there. So it did find our boot drive. Great. Let's make sure everything works the way that it's supposed to. We go to the Apple menu, about this Mac. Here we go, 1.4 gigahertz PowerPC G4. We did it. Go us. With 2 megs of L3 cache. More info. We go to graphics and displays, and it's a GeForce 4 MX. Excellent. And if I choose serial ATA, nothing. But I bet it is a, oh, it's not an ATA controller either. What is it? PCI card, I guess. There's our Ceratec S2E4. Well, at least that's what it thinks it is. That's the, oh, it says it's an ATA card. All right, so it works.
All right, so at this point, things were not going according to plan. I could not get the GeForce 4 MX to fit and actually screw it down and anchor it. I don't know if the case was bent or if the card just wasn't shaped right. I ended up swapping it out for a Radeon 9000 Pro, so that was actually an upgrade. There's another one that came from an MDD that I don't have that machine or whatever, but it worked great in the Sawtooth. Would not work in my Quicksilver for some reason, but the Sawtooth, it worked great. So we did that, and so I had a 1.4 gigahertz G4 with a Radeon 9000 Pro, and so then I proceeded to run a bunch of benchmarks. The most important ones, to me anyway, were Xbench in Tiger and MacBench 5 in macOS 9. That really gives us a good comparison between machines that were contemporary for OS 9 and what this thing ended up being. And I think the results are pretty astounding. This doesn't have a faster bus like the mirror drive doors. It doesn't use DDR memory like the Mirror Drive doors, but still, it was well over 3 times as fast as the G4 400. And the G4 by itself was also a lot faster than like a BHG3 300 megahertz tower. And so I was really impressed with the upgraded performance. I really like this machine. I love the looks. The graphite G4 is super attractive, and it's just a really great machine. So the fun thing about this G4 upgrade is that I bought it on eBay at auction, um, factory sealed. So when I opened the box, I did not know if it worked. So I'm really lucky that it worked. I feel really good about that. There were no returns if the box had been opened. It's not a collector's item, guys. You should use these things if you have the machines to use them in. And the G4s are common. My advice to you is to buy at an auction. Um, you'll spend a lot less money. And my experience was a little weird. You know, you saw that orange open firmware screen, and that was really kind of scary at first. But swapping out the memory was fine. I actually ended up putting all that memory back in, and it was okay. So I think it was just, it needed to be reseated. So anyway, let me know what you think of this machine in the comments. What are your Mac upgrade stories? I'd really like to hear about it. So this has been Ben. You've been awesome, and we'll catch you next time.